and thank you for joining this presentation by Washington State Department of Commerce. My name is Radi Simeonova, Managing Director at the Department of Commerce. We are the leading economic development agency in the state of Washington, and we look forward to assisting Japanese businesses interested in learning more about the state. Our relations in Japan began in the late 1890s when Seattle became the first US port to establish regular contact with Japan. I look forward to sharing more about the state and the relationship between Japan and Washington State. And now, on to the presentation.
Now, I would like to introduce you to Washington State. I will begin with our state's remarkable growth. We are one of the 10 largest economies in the United States. Our annual economic output is more than $500 billion, or similar to the country of Thailand. The state's economy is bigger than the 25 smallest US states combined. We have a population of 7.5 million in the state, and we rank 13th in population. Our geography ranges from seacoast to the west to mountain ranges, forests, and semi-arid basin to the east. To the right, you see a map of GDP growth around the United States. The states shaded in dark blue are the states that experienced the most growth in 2018. Washington State is in the northwest corner, shaded in dark blue. As I mentioned, we're located in the northwestern region of the United States, and we are equidistant between Asia and Europe. The flight time between Seattle and Tokyo is a little over 9 hours, similar to the flight time between Seattle and London. We are a day closer by shipping routes to Asia compared to other West Coast ports. We also have regular flights to Asian destinations. Prior to the pandemic, we had 3 daily flights to Japan. I mentioned earlier that our economy experienced remarkable growth in the past years. The economy grew 5.7% in 2018, or nearly twice the national rate. In 2021, the state was named number 1 in the US News Best States ranking. The reason for this high ranking was, first, our fast-growing economy, our low-carbon electricity, also our educated workforce. We have the largest concentration of STEM workers in the United States. You may recognize some of these Washington brands. Much of the growth of the state is driven by the information and communication technology sector and by companies such as Amazon and Microsoft. Boeing, the leading aerospace company, was founded in Washington State over 100 years ago. Starbucks, the coffee giant, as well as Costco and PACCAR are also located in Washington State. What are some of the reasons why companies choose Washington? First, our growth-oriented economy, our educated workforce. We are a global hub for exports, our strong culture of entrepreneurship, pro-business environment, and low-cost energy. And I'll spend a little bit more time on these advantages in the next slides. I would like to highlight our leading sectors. First, aerospace. Washington ranks number 1 nationally in aerospace sales, exports, profits, and employment. Over 130,000 workers are employed in Washington's aerospace industry. Clean technology is backed by 90,000 workers and more than $1 billion in venture capital. Businesses are supported by world-class institutions such as the Pacific Northwest National Lab, University of Washington, and Washington State University. Our information and communication technology sector has now emerged as the leading sector in Washington State. We are the home of more than 14,000 ICT companies and 300 300,000 technology-based workers. Employers include Microsoft, Amazon, Nintendo, Zillow, and Tableau. Search and social media powerhouses Google, Facebook, Twitter have discovered the competitive advantages of having presence in Washington state. Our life science sector employs nearly 36,000 researchers and support staff and more than 1,000 biotech and nonprofit research organizations, medical device, equipment companies, digital health firms, drug and pharmaceutical firms call Washington home. Our maritime sector is also incredibly strong, with over 3,000 miles of shoreline and direct access to the Pacific Ocean. Out of the 117 shipyards in the United States, 26 are located in Washington state. Our forest products sector is one of our traditional sectors. About half of the state's territory is forested. We have pulp and paper and value-added products companies that manufacture doors, window frames, and stairs. We have a strong defense sector as well. We have 6 active duty military installations, 2 Department of Energy facilities, and 2 world-class universities performing defense-related research. Agriculture is also strong in Washington state, with over 36,000 farms and 15 million acres of farmland. Washington state is known in the world for its agricultural products and food production capacities. We are #1 producer of apples, pears, cherries, hops, asparagus, red raspberries, and the 2nd largest wine producer after California. I would like to share more about Japan's investment in Washington state. We're home to Mitsubishi Corporation. We also have aerospace companies such as GEMCO and Toray, both suppliers to Boeing, a small research center for Sharp Electronics outside of Seattle, as well as companies in the life science sector such as Sonosite, Fujifilm, leading ultrasound company in the Washington state. Many of these companies are located in Seattle, but I wanted to share with you more about Central Washington location that is also home to many Japanese companies. For example, Fuji Chemical chose to locate in Grant County, Moses Lake, because of the low-cost electricity. You see several other Japanese companies have also called Moses Lake home. More facts about our strong relationship with Japan. We have over 120 companies from Japan here in Washington state. Over 220 companies in Washington state trade with Japan. Japan is very important to us in terms of export opportunities. Japan was Washington state's 3rd largest export market with over $6 billion in goods exported. In 2018, Japan was Washington state's #1 market for agricultural exports, importing $1.4 billion in agricultural goods. Earlier, I mentioned one of the reasons why companies choose Washington is because of its low-cost green electricity. We are a leading producer of hydroelectricity. 1/4 of the nation's utility-scale hydroelectricity is produced in Washington state. The average industrial electricity rate in the state is 4.86 cents per kilowatt hour, or 28% less than the national average. We are fortunate to have our utility companies derive 70% of their energy from hydropower, which is reliable, renewable, and produces almost 0 greenhouse gas emissions. Recently, we adopted a renewable portfolio standard, which requires our utilities to obtain 15% of their electricity from renewables such as solar, wind, and bio sources. Last year, the Washington State Legislature adopted a new strategy which requires the state to use 100% renewable energy by 2045. Now I would like to share more about our pro-business tax environment. We are one of 6 states that doesn't have state corporate income tax. Instead of state corporate income tax, we have what is called a business and occupation tax, and you can see an example to the right. This tax is based on gross receipts, and for example, the tax rate for the manufacturing sector is less than 0.5%. For every $1 million in gross receipts, this means that the state tax is less than $5,000. We also have no state personal income tax, no sales tax on equipment used in the manufacturing and R&D process, no inventory tax, no tax on interests or dividends. This is an illustration of corporate income tax rates across the United States. As you can see, there are 6 states that are shaded in gray, including Washington State. These are states that don't have corporate income tax. The corporate income taxes vary across the United States, and those shaded in darker color have higher rates. We look forward to helping you with any questions you might have about doing business in Washington State. We have no-cost confidential assistance for overseas investors who are interested in learning more about the state. We can help you identify sites for expansion or location. We can research new markets on your behalf, help you locate strategic partners, and coordinate workforce training or answer any regulatory or permitting assistance questions. And with this, I will conclude our presentation. Now, I would like to introduce you to our representative in Japan. Heidi Salmela in Tokyo represents Washington State Department of Commerce in Japan, and she looks forward to working with you and answering any questions you might have. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to hearing from you.
こんにちは。ワシントン州政府商務局日本代表事務所のサーメラと申します。弊局は米国での事業拡大をご検討されている日本企業様に情報を提供しており、ビジネスを拡大する過程に様々な支援をしております。米国は引き続き国外投資及び国外での事業拡大を検討されているお客様の中でも関心度数が最も高く、弊局はこれまで数多く日本企業様のワシントン州での事業拡大を支援してまいりました。米国市場への事業展開を進める準備がすでに整っている企業様におかれましては、ワシントン州でのロケーションの選択と関連協会などのパートナーご紹介をお手伝いなどのサポートをしております。ワシントン州についてご質問などございましたら、簡単なご相談から対応可能でございますので、お気軽にお問い合わせください。ご連絡お待ちしております。